What if Robert Baratheon had not died? Let's explore the depths of this alternate scenario. After his confrontation with Cersei in the Godswood, Ned Stark is more certain than ever that neither Joffrey nor his siblings are truly Robert's children. However, he knows that the evidence he possesses is circumstantial at best and would never definitively prove anything. His only possible allies are Renly, whose ambitions Ned suspects, and Ser Barristan, who is bound by his vows to the King's Guard. Realizing that he needs more support, he takes a deep breath and orders Littlefinger to meet him in the Tower of the Hand. Despite his doubts about the Master of Coin, Ned cannot afford to dismiss him. When Littlefinger arrives, his usual smirk in place, Ned makes his request. He needs additional guards and a Maester, someone trained in healing, advising, and discretion. He cannot trust Pycelle, whom he suspects to be loyal to Cersei. Littlefinger, ever the opportunist, offers something more. Sellswords, enough to take the Red Keep and seize power before Robert's return. Ned refuses to entertain such treasonous thoughts, reiterating that he only seeks protection. With a stiff bow, Littlefinger agrees to arrange it. Once alone, Ned sets to work. He writes a letter to Stannis Baratheon, revealing that he knows why Stannis fled to Dragonstone and that he shares Jon Arryn's suspicions about the legitimacy of Robert's heirs. Rather than using a raven, he has his own guards deliver the letter to ensure it does not fall into the wrong hands. The following days are tense, with Ned pretending as if nothing has changed. Finally, Littlefinger sends him a discreet message, summoning him to a secret tunnel beneath the Red Keep. There, Ned marvels at the network of hidden passageways running through the castle, a secret that makes him uneasy. From the shadows, nearly 20 fierce, battle-worn men step forward, armed to the teeth. The last among them is not a warrior, but a small man in gray robes, chains looped around his neck. A Maester. Littlefinger smirks, explaining that he called in more than one favor to bring them here. Grateful yet wary, Ned takes the Maester and most of the sellswords into his service, dressing them in stark colors and stationing them at key points around the city. He suspects that some of them still report to Littlefinger and assigns his own guards to monitor them. Reports from beyond the city walls grow grimmer. Rumors spread that Gregor Clegane is raiding the Riverlands, possibly as a precursor to an all-out war. Ned wishes to mobilize a response, but lacks solid proof of Tywin Lannister's involvement. Meanwhile, Cersei remains in the Red Keep, acting as if their conversation never happened. It is clear she will not bow to his demands, forcing him to devise a new plan to deal with her and ensure his family's safety. Then, late one night, a guardsman wakes Ned with urgent news. Robert's hunting party has returned. The king was seen arriving at the mud gate, but something was amiss. Among his entourage was a litter, its occupant hidden from view. A sense of foreboding washes over Ned. Something terrible has happened. Hurrying to the Red Keep, Ned arrives at the royal chambers to find Robert lying in bed, his sheets soaked in blood. He groans in pain as a deep wound from a boar's tusk festers on his side. Acting quickly, Ned's new maester gets to work, cleaning the wound and administering milk of the poppy. Despite his agony, Robert manages a weak smile. Hey, Ed, you look like a worried mother, he chuckles hoarsely. You look like a fool who decided to wrestle a boar, Ned retorts. As the maester works, footsteps echo through the hall. Cersei enters, eyes narrowing at the sight of Ned and his healer tending to her husband. Grandmaster Pycelle shuffles in behind her, insisting that he should take over. Ned refuses, knowing Pycelle cannot be trusted. Robert, despite his pain, waves Cersei and Pycelle off, declaring that Ned's maester will see him through. The queen departs in silent frustration, leaving them alone. Over the next several days, Ned watches over Robert, praying for his survival. At first, it seems hopeless. Robert grows weaker, barely able to move without grimacing in pain, but the maester's relentless care begins to show results. The fever breaks, the wound starts to heal, and one day, Ned enters the room to find Robert laughing and flirting with a serving girl. His old spirit is returning. Thank the gods for that maester of yours, Robert chuckles, taking a sip of wine. Now, if only he were a woman. It's good to have you back, Robert, Ned says. The realm needs you. I need you. Robert sighs, the weight of the Iron Throne pressing upon him once more. Sometimes I forget myself, Ned. They never taught us this in war. I used to think fighting was the hardest part, but ruling? It's enough to drive a man mad. He leans forward, voice more serious. You were right about that Targaryen girl. Killing her would have been a mistake. Spread the word. Whoever tries to take her head will lose his own. Ned hesitates. The moment has come. If it were your own children, Robert, would the decision be any different? Robert's brow furrows. What are you talking about? Ned takes a deep breath. Cersei and Jaime. The children aren't yours, Robert. The room falls into stunned silence. Robert stares at Ned, disbelief giving way to rage. With a roar, he hurls his goblet against the wall, shattering it. But then the fury fades, replaced by anguish. How could this happen? How long have I been blind? You did the best you could. Damn it, Ned. I don't need your flattery. I let this happen. He buries his face in his hands before looking up, his expression hardening. What do we do now? We can't let the Lannisters remain unchecked. Cersei must be arrested. She won't go quietly, Robert warns, nor will Tywin take it lying down. Then we act swiftly, Ned says. You need to be ready. Robert exhales deeply. If I'm to keep my throne, I'll have to fight for it. But by the gods, Ned, I can't do it alone. The next morning, the throne room is packed. A heavy tension lingers in the air as Ned strides forward, his guards and sellswords flanking him. Before him, Joffrey sits on the Iron Throne, Cersei by his side, their cold, triumphant gazes lock onto him. Around them, Lannister guards and King's guards stand at attention, gold cloaks lining the hall. Ned sees how outnumbered he is. Then, the doors swing open, Robert Baratheon enters, and the realm holds its breath. Baratheon banners had been sighted on the horizon, 8,000 strong and bearing the crowned stag. In the dimly lit war tent, he glanced around, noting the subtle expressions of uncertainty on the faces of his bannermen. It was one thing to wage war in the Riverlands, but to strike at the king's own forces? That was treason. So my good brother has come for his crown, he mused. Very well, we will meet him with diplomacy. Order the men to make camp here. We will send an envoy to the king. The bannermen exchanged weary glances, but relief was evident on their faces. They were glad to avoid immediate battle and quickly dispersed to relay the orders. Once the tent was nearly empty, Tywin Lannister signaled to Gregor Clegane, Amory Lorch, and Vargo Hoat, 3 men who had remained behind. You 3, gather a company of picked men, he ordered, his voice low and deliberate. I want no Lannister banners, no sigils. When night falls, strike at the Baratheon forces. Kill as many as you can and scatter the rest. Gregor Clegane grinned wickedly, while Amory Lorch and Vargo Hoat exchanged knowing looks. Tywin's next words left no room for failure. There must be no chance of this treachery leading back to us. Take your best men and bring me Robert's head. Meanwhile, Robert Baratheon's forces were assembling in a loose formation, preparing to break camp. Sir Sandor Clegane, Ser Barristan Selmy, and other loyal knights stood nearby, their weapons at the ready. Robert himself inspected his warhammer, testing its weight. The air was calm until it wasn't. Shouts of warning shattered the morning stillness as Tywin's picked men, led by Gregor Clegane, Amory Lorch, and Vargo Hoat, descended upon the camp. The mountain moved like a battering ram, smashing through feeble defenses, tossing aside men as though they were dolls. Behind him, the ruthless band of raiders cut through tents and soldiers alike. The Baratheon troops scrambled to form ranks, but the attack was fast and brutal. Robert roared, raising his warhammer high. To me! Rally to your king! His voice, filled with fury and command, steeled his men. Under Robert's leadership and Barristan Selmy's discipline, the Baratheon forces began to regroup. They secured the king's tent and slowly pushed forward, their resistance strengthening. At the front of the battle, Robert swung his warhammer with devastating force, crushing anyone foolish enough to stand in his way. Amidst the chaos, Sir Arion Oakheart cut down Amory Lorch and rushed to Robert's side with a small group of men. Witnessing their king's wrath and the sheer force of his army's resurgence, Tywin's men faltered. Gregor Clegane, seeing his forces routing, snarled an order for retreat and rode out the way he had come. Robert gave chase, his warhammer swinging, driving the remnants of the cowardly ambush into the woods. When the last of them had scattered, he turned his gaze toward the Lannister camp. Treason, he bellowed. Tywin Lannister sent you to kill me. Lay down your arms, or taste my hammer. The Lannister bannermen hesitated, then one by one their weapons lowered, some dropping them altogether in surrender. The act spread rapidly, with more and more Western men casting down their arms, knowing the battle was lost. Robert's men surveyed the battlefield, strewn with the fallen from both sides. A knight approached the king. The field is yours, your grace. What shall we do with the prisoners? Robert's expression hardened. Bind them. They will answer for their crimes. Tywin will be brought to me in chains. As the sun rose higher, the battlefield was littered with Lannister banners, trampled and broken. The loyal Baratheon soldiers stood victorious around their king while the remaining traitors knelt, awaiting their fate. Justice was swift. Tywin Lannister was executed alongside Kevan, Cersei, and his leading bannermen. Jaime Lannister met his end at the hands of Robb Stark, executed on the orders of Robert Baratheon. Casterly Rock was placed under the stewardship of Stannis Baratheon, ensuring the western lands remained under control. Tyrion Lannister disappeared after the battle, rumored to have fled with his clansmen into the Mountains of the Moon. The Hound was tasked with hunting them down, ensuring no Lannister influence lingered in hiding. Joffrey and his siblings were spared execution, thanks to the intervention of Eddard Stark. Instead, Joffrey was sent to the north as a hostage, while Pycelle remained in King's Landing, and Tommen accompanied Stannis to the Westerlands. If they proved loyal servants of the crown, they would one day be granted Casterly Rock. Meanwhile, Renly Baratheon secured a marriage alliance with House Tyrell, ensuring their loyalty. Margaery Tyrell wed Robert, while Garland Tyrell married Sansa Stark, strengthening ties between the powerful houses. With his near brush with death, Robert took his responsibilities more seriously. With Eddard Stark as his hand, the two guided the realm into a new era of stability and prosperity. That is our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. With Robert Baratheon firmly seated on the Iron Throne, Westeros began a new chapter, but the scars of war remained. The executions of Tywin, Kevan, and Cersei Lannister sent shockwaves across the realm, marking the downfall of House Lannister as a dominant force. Jaime's death at the hands of Robb Stark only cemented their demise. Stannis Baratheon took his new role as Lord of the Westerlands with solemn duty, ruling from Casterly Rock with an iron grip. His reputation for justice, unyielding and harsh, brought order to a once rebellious land. The gold mines of the Westerlands now filled the crown's coffers, strengthening Robert's rule and allowing him to reward loyal houses. Meanwhile, Tyrion Lannister remained a ghost, vanished into the Mountains of the Moon. Rumors spread that he had aligned himself with the mountain clans, forging his own kingdom in exile. Sandor Clegane led search parties deep into the mountains, but the terrain was unforgiving and Tyrion proved elusive. The north, under the rule of House Stark, remained one of the kingdom's strongest pillars, with Renly Baratheon securing a marriage between Margaery Tyrell and Robert, and Garland Tyrell marrying Sansa Stark. A powerful alliance was forged between the Baratheons, Tyrells, and Starks. These bonds solidified the realm's unity, ensuring that none could easily challenge Robert's rule. Joffrey, sent to Winterfell as a hostage, struggled under the harsh discipline of the North. He despised the cold, the simple food, and the lack of courtly luxuries. Lord Eddard Stark ensured that Joffrey was taught humility, training alongside the northern boys and learning firsthand the weight of leadership. Over time, the once cruel and spoiled prince began to change, though whether he could ever be trusted remained uncertain. Tommen, under Stannis' watchful eye in the Westerlands, was raised with strict discipline, while Myrcella flourished in King's Landing, growing into a wise and beloved member of the court. The last true challenge to Robert's reign came from across the narrow sea. In the free cities, whispers of a dragon queen began to spread. Daenerys Targaryen, the last scion of House Targaryen, had not been forgotten. She had survived the fall of her house, and with the strength of House Martell behind her, she was no longer a mere exile. The Dornish, outraged by the Lannisters' past crimes and eager for revenge, had pledged their loyalty to the Targaryen cause. Word soon reached King's Landing that Daenerys had gathered a formidable force, bolstered by sellswords, freed slaves, and Dorne's armies. She did not come alone. Her dragons had grown, their fiery breath promising destruction. The realm stood on the precipice of yet another war. Would Robert Baratheon, hardened by treachery and near death, be able to withstand the storm? Or would the Targaryens rise once more to reclaim their birthright? The Game of Thrones was not yet over. This ending leaves the story open-ended, setting the stage for a potential war between Robert Baratheon and Daenerys Targaryen.